Right now, the community continues to mourn after a gunman shot and killed 5 people at the Capital Gazette newspaper building in Annapolis.
We've got some new information about those 5 people who were all employees of the newspaper, as well as the latest from police on the brutal attack. Here's what we know right now at 5 o'clock. Anne Arundel County police say the shooter barricaded the back door of the building to keep people from escaping. One of the victims was killed while trying to get out. Investigators were able to identify the suspected shooter using facial recognition technology. They say he did not mutilate his fingers to avoid being identified. Police also tell us he used a pump-action shotgun, which was legally purchased.
I will not say his name today. I refuse to do it. I wish you wouldn't do it, but I know better. He doesn't deserve us to talk about him one more second. This was a targeted attack. We can't fathom why that person chose to do this. That person has had a history with the Anne Arundel County Police Department. In May of 2013, we did have a situation where online threatening comments were made.
Let's take you live now to an area outside of the newspaper building. You see that sign in the grass there, just behind the political signs. It says #Annapolis Strong. Now, during that police briefing earlier today, police said about 300 officers from a ton of law enforcement agencies responded to the scene there yesterday.
Now, we will tell you more about the suspect in a moment, but first we want to focus on the victims. And right now there's a vigil at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Annapolis. One of the people who died in the shooting, Wendy Winters, belonged to that church. This service is for her and the 4 other victims. Janice Park is outside the church and spoke to Wendy's daughter a little bit ago. Janice?
Hi, Leslie. Good evening. Yeah, right behind me, this tiny church here in Annapolis, it is filled to capacity. This service started around 4 p.m. Now, I spoke to Wendy Winters' daughter, who was a bit shaken. She was a little soft-spoken. She says that she's still processing things, but she had a really strong, important message that we need to continue to keep telling these stories that her mother fought for, that her mother loved so much, a lot of them about children. Now, I spoke to some folks from out of state who came to support these people who lost their lives yesterday. Now, Rob Hyacinth, Gerald Fishman, John McNamara, Rebecca Smith, and Wendy Winters, who is an important member of this congregation, I'm told, for about 20 years. She was very well known and loved here. Now, her daughter, as I said, was a bit shaken, but spoke so clearly of her mother's love of journalism, her 4 kids, many of them who have military ties in the Navy, and all the children in the community of Annapolis and surrounding areas.
I want people to keep telling the stories that she cared about. My mom cared about teens and homes and off-limits places. She cared about telling community stories. She wanted things to be in the news that weren't just crime and doom and gloom. She wanted to tell nice stories, but those stories still matter to people.
And the Reverend at this church tells me just about 3 weeks ago they had an active shooter drill that Wendy was a part of, and he tells me very sadly he was really thinking what must have been going through Wendy's mind when everything happened yesterday. For now, we're live in Annapolis. Janice Park, WUSA 9.
For her daughter, though, to show such a great poise less than 24 hours after losing her mother is just so sad. Janice, thank you. As the community remembers those 5 newspaper staffers who died, we want to tell you a little bit more about each of them. Rob Hyacinth was 59 years old, a columnist and assistant editor, also an adjunct lecturer at the University of Maryland, Merrill College of Journalism. Before the Capital Gazette, Rob worked at the Baltimore Sun for 15 years. He's from Florida and also spent some time as a news anchor and reporter in the South.
Wendy Winters, who we just told you about, was 65 and a mother of 4. She was the Capital Gazette's special publications editor. She also had a PR background and worked for 2 agencies in New York City. Wendy volunteered with the Girl Scouts and the Red Cross.
Rebecca Smith was 34 years old, lived in Baltimore County with her fiance. She was the newspaper's sales assistant and had previously worked for a health organization.
Gerald Fishman was 61. He was a Maryland J School graduate and wrote for and edited the newspaper's editorial section. He was known for his clever and quirky voice. A former executive editor of the Capital Gazette told the Baltimore Sun that Gerald was so smart he tried out for Jeopardy twice.
John McNamara was 56. He worked for the Capital Gazette for more than 20 years. Most recently, he reported on stories in Bowie and Crofton, West County. John remembered for his love of sports, and at one point he left the paper to pursue his dream of sports reporting. John met his wife Andrea while attending the University of Maryland.
We want to let you know about some community events planned to honor all of them. Tonight at 7 o'clock, the Episcopal Diocese of Maryland will hold a prayer service across the street from the newspaper building. At 8 o'clock, the city of Annapolis will have a vigil outside the State House, and the group assembled there will then march to the city dock for a service by the water. And tomorrow at 5:30 p.m., the St. Anne's Episcopal Church will have a service there.